lets it off and away they go.
Extremely loose. He's managed to hold on and he missed the complete that. He's crazy stuff.
Side Freitas is on the grass on the infield before. He slides through, he tags Richard Eck.
Yogi Berra once said, "It's deja vu all over again." I'm pretty sure we've been here before, but this time it's for all the marbles. Though the originally planned double points and extra distance race had to be abandoned due to technical issues, today Le Mans finale is not expected to experience any such problems. But with it being a 90-minute race and strategy once again being in the air, the finishing order is by no means a foregone conclusion. Who can come away with the win this time? We'll find out soon as we get ready to watch round 15 of the Autobahn Motorcar Group Sportscar Challenge, and you'll see it all live on the Global Sim Racing channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth covering the prototype and GT1 classes is Bill Soup Zahn. Keeping us up with the GT3 class is Samuel Ryman. Behind the scenes is our director Amjad Yaman, and he's using cameras provided by Ducky Beard. Sam, in case anyone missed the round here earlier this year, tell us about the Le Mans circuit.
Well, Joe, you mentioned deja vu, and it does feel like we've been around here before. All 8.47 miles and 33 turns of it. Back at that first race, though, as you mentioned, they were racing for 2.4 hours, so tonight's race at 90 minutes will be quite a bit shorter. And Joe, as you mentioned, deja vu, and it does feel like we've been around here before. All 8.47 miles and 33 turns of it. So let's show our audience what it's like with our GSRC lap guide.
Alright, we've got Amjad Yaman in the GSRC BMW, so let's do a lap around the Circuit de la Sarthe. First, we'll fly down the imposing start-finish straight with its huge grandstands and buildings. Thankfully, the track has been widened a lot since its very early days. Up next is the Dunlop curve, which can't quite be taken flat out if you're hitting the line right. A little lift sets you up for the Dunlop chicane, which is tighter and slower than it looks. That then brings you over the crest and under the famous Dunlop Bridge for the Chapel Rundown. Hold to the right to give yourself the best entry into the Forest S's. The first half has a lot of banking, but the right-hander dumps into a crest. Be wary of being too eager on the power because the car can get away from you. Then, it's a short burst to Tertre Rouge. Getting on the power as soon as possible is going to be so important out of this right-hand flick, because other than the Antares, it's going to be a long straight shot to the first chicane. In fact, since it's flat out for so long, let's skip ahead. You can brake pretty deep for the Forza chicane, but you've got to be careful not to compromise your corner exit. The paved runoff should save you from most of your mistakes, but it's still not going to make for a happy time. Expect overtakes to happen coming into and out of the chicane. Fast forwarding once again, make sure and have your brake marker picked out for the second big braking event on this stretch, then throw out the anchor. The Michelin chicane is almost a mirror image of the first one, and just like before, the corner exit is all important. From there, the Mulsanne kink brings us to within sight of the Mulsanne corner. We're going to skip ahead to that, where you can see it's not a straight shot into the braking zone. The addition of the roundabout in the 80s has made it all the more tricky slowing the car up into this tight 90-degree bend. Don't be afraid to straddle that outside curb on the exit. Every little bit of momentum will be useful, so take the track to its limits. Yet again, let's chop off a long portion of straight and show you the entry to Indianapolis. This right-hand kink requires you to turn in and brake at the same time. Bring the car back across the track and use the banking as much as you can. Tuck it right down to that apex, then switch sides after you swing it out. Arnage is a deceptively slow bend that invites you to enter far too hot. There's very little runoff to the outside, so it's not uncommon to see cars make contact with the wall here. The car then blasts its way towards the Porsche curves, which reside at the end of this flat-out section. As you enter, bring the car far to the left and use the turn to help scrub off speed. Hold tight to the right, and from there, it starts to feel a little like a street course with that blue wall to the outside of the bridge corners. These then bring you into karting, where things get much slower. Once again, tuck the car all the way to the right because you need the best line into the left-hander. Even though the outside is paved, going wide will hurt because you'll get a slowdown penalty. From there, you'll fly through the right-left of Maison Blanche, which literally translates to White House, and then it's time for the Ford chicane. This first half is pretty fast, but you'll want to keep the car settled so that you can brake for the second half. Things get really tight now that the track rejoins the Bugatti circuit. Try to both stay off those tall curves and keep it out of the gravel. From there, we've now finished a lap around the Circuit de la Sarthe. Well, if you're used to the same story over and over again, certainly not going to experience that, as a man who always puts a unique spin on the points championship is Bill Zahn.
In a manner of speaking, and I guess if we're going to have deja vu, what better place to have it than to have it at France? Let's go ahead and look at the point standing. We'll start with the prototypes. Now, in all of these overlays, you're not going to see any red or green arrows. It's everybody held station through the entire points spectrum, but that doesn't mean that we don't have some stuff to look at. Robert Tinsley's locked this thing up in the prototypes. Ulmer and Gerard are within 5 points, so that could swap positions there, depending how that plays out. A couple of battles here that you're not going to really see. Sean Reese is leading in the AM Championship by about 30 points. I think he's got that one locked up for Flying Snail Racing. Let's go ahead and look at the GT1s. This one gets a little interesting. The lead is only 9 points. Joe and I did a little bit of the math here, and we think pretty much if Sviatovic can finish in 4th place, he's pretty safe on this. Unless McGarvey happens to win, and he's clean, gets the bonus point there, and picks up a bonus point for pole. So 4th place is all Sviatovic needs to do to get this one. Kevin Santana is going to be our AM Championship champion in this one. Let's go over to the GT3. It's also interesting. Again, we think a 4th place is good enough for Laura Costa. He only has 4 pocket points, but those aren't going to come into play. If he has to use those up, Haley's going to get the championship. So again, Costa looking to go at least 4th, and that's assuming that Haley maxes out with a win and picks up as many bonus points as he can. But what is interesting is the AM Championship. You're not going to see the names on here, but they are tied. David Tejeda for Autobahn West and Christopher Sherburne for P1 Racing, P1 Sim Racing. They are tied with 164 points. Basically, Tejeda, Sherburne, whoever finishes ahead of each other is going to get the championship in the AM class. Looking at the team championship, I believe it's all locked up for Talon Motorsports, TMC Carbon, Autobahn Motorsports West, Autobahn Motorsports East, and then SRN Motorsports, rounding out the overlay there. And of course, there is no AM championship in the teams. Okay, Joe, back to you.
As we fly over this incredibly large course, and with it being such a long lap around here, Sam, I have to expect there's a fair number of places where overtakes can take place.
Yeah, well, the most opportunistic place, of course, is down the Mulsanne Straight, which is broken up by 2 separate chicanes and then ends with a third long run into the hairpin. Now we see Robert Tinsley going down the Mulsanne Straight right now. And what we're going to see, especially early on in the race here, is packs forming. If you watch motorcycle racing, such as MotoGP, you almost see something like that. Well, they'll break away into a pack of 3 battling for first, a pack of 3 battling for fourth, and so on, like that. However, this Mulsanne Straight, along with its chicanes and the hairpin at the end, aren't the only great overtaking opportunities around here. You also have you also have Indianapolis, which is a corner after Mulsanne Corner, and the Ford chicane toward the end of a lap. And let's not forget those S's at the start of a lap. If you can get a good run going down the front straight, you may be able to make a move in turn 1. And just due to how large this course is, Joe, and given the fact that you're probably going to want to run low downforce to get down those straights in a timely manner, any driver can make a mistake on any of these turns if they lose a bit of that rear downforce. So maybe if you can't draft by them, your best way to gain a position is to let the car in front of you make a mistake.
Yes, I wouldn't doubt it. I think we saw that in the few times that we have run this combination of cars around here, really similar combinations of cars. The low downforce certainly proves difficult to control, especially in some of the lower speed corners with all the power behind these cars. Now, Bill, even though the prototype championship is over and Gerard can't overtake Tinsley, you mentioned that there is a fight between Gerard and Ulmer. And actually, yes, they're both out there today. And I believe Tinsley has switched classes, if I'm not mistaken. So it's basically going to be a straight fight up at the top as far as we can tell.
And that does, it's funny about the consequences of a little change like that. What that does do is open up the point differentials a little higher as you move up. So instead of Ulmer and Gerard maybe looking at a 2nd and 3rd place finish, now they're looking at 1st and 2nd. That gives more opportunities for the guys chasing.
I think I spoke too soon. I didn't see him on the timing screens yet, but it looks like he did show up in the right car. There was talk about him being in a different one.
That's going to make it a little harder, assuming that he finishes ahead of Omer and Gerard.
He's intentionally qualifying at the back, though. He came to the start-finish line and he slowed.
That's going to be fun.
Yeah. He's out for some fun today.
Well, that's good. Interesting, though, this being in Europe, this is really not Omer's forte, so plenty of opportunity for Gerard to pick up those points.
No doubt it. And he's coming off a very good win at Motegi. Could be carrying the momentum with him. A gutsy win, if you ask me. Held off Tinsey to the end. Capitalized on a mistake and then basically just ran as perfect of a race as he could to hold him back all the way to the checkered flag at the end of the 60 minutes. Look for Gralti to maybe get another podium. He's had 2 in a row. Running a great race up in the prototypes, kind of replacing Alex Simonik lately as the typical third place finisher.
Yeah, been coming on late and a little if he can just be a tip faster, I think we could say he would be in the big 3 up there for next season. So that's always exciting when you have somebody else there and mixing it up.
And speaking of 3s, Sam, let's take a look at Sheldon Rosenbaum. 3 third places in a row. In fact, those are, if I am getting it correctly, the only 3 podiums he's had this season. He may have had one more. I need to go back and check my stats. But we've been talking a lot about how good he's been coming on. He's kind of the Nick Heidfeld of this series now.
Yeah, but they say unless you're a super driver, like perhaps Formula 1 fans will remember Max Verstappen jumped into the Red Bull racing machine and got a win on his first outing, you're never really just going to jump into one of these cars and win right away. First off, especially when you have tough competition ahead of you, you've got to get consistent finishes, and that's what he's been doing. 3 third-place finishes. You're not going to get a second or a first until you've proven that you can get to the end of a line with a fast pace, a solid performance, and that's what he's been doing all season long. And maybe we haven't seen wins come because of that, but if he can maintain that consistency and maintain that performance and build on it during the winter months before the next season, who knows, perhaps we will see him become not just a one-time race winner, but perhaps even take a few victories, and who knows, Bill, maybe even one day fight for a championship.
The fun guy to watch is the newcomer, Jeffrey Ooms, down there in the GT3s, who've come on, and we just saw him pick up a win in another race that we broadcast here on GSRC, and he's been fast. Somebody to keep an eye on for next season.
Certainly, and Ooms, I believe, was running in the GT3s in that series as well. It was the Predator series for the Pacific Majors. I'd have to go and double check to make sure I've got that right. I'm pretty sure he was in the GT3 cars.
A lot of cars out on track right now, Joe, and I have a theory as to why so many cars might be doing the LCQ. Correct me if I'm wrong, but during the first 3 rounds of qualifying, for the prototypes they have the first 15 minutes, GT1 the second set of 15, and then GT3 7 minutes 30 through 45. You've got to get off the track when your time expires, and that's a problem when you have such a large track as the Circuit de la Sarthe. Here, I wonder if they can get away with an extra lap or 2 when a clock expires, because iRacing, when this clock in the top left does hit 0, it will build on a little bit of time for those drivers to finish their laps.
It's an interesting thought. I would have said that maybe it has to do with the fact that it is so big, that means there's less chance of running into the different class traffic with it being mixed out there. So more guys can take this chance, this opportunity to go for it in the last chance qualifying, which we see has about 1 minute and 30 left. In fact, the only cars that I'm seeing that haven't put laps in, Robert Jackman, Kevin Santana, and Scott Corbin, all 3 are not out on track currently. 32 cars have put a time in. And there you can see the top of the GT1s out there on our leaderboard.
I think it's a testament to how successful this series is. Here we are with a replay event at the end of the season with a lot of the championships locked up, and we still have a pretty darn good field.
And that shows just how many of these drivers aren't necessarily out here worried about that championship. Yeah. They just enjoy driving in this series. And I think we've seen that. We've heard that as we've interviewed a number of these drivers post-race. We asked them if they're thinking about it at all. A lot of them just say, no, just going to take it a bit at a time and take each race as it comes. The Nico Rosberg approach as we watch Fleming in his Mercedes come on the Mulsanne straight. Doesn't look like he's going to be able to finish this lap, though, and you can see he dutifully pulls over with no point in going on further. Double checking to see if we've got anybody else completing laps or if we can go through our qualifying grid.
Yeah, I don't think that's the last we're going to see of Patrick Fleming right there, Joe. I seem to recall he had a pretty strong performance going here at the Le Mans race earlier on during the season. I also wonder the reason we saw him pulling off there. We caught him in the chicanes there. I think he had a couple wheels off that probably counted as a 1X, and you're not allowed to get away with that in qualifying.
Looks like we will be able to see a few finishing laps. Chris Pence, who we're riding on board through the Porsche curves as he comes out of karting and through Maison Blanche. Now up to the Ford chicane, has to get these right. Always tricky to get the most out of them. Right now he's sitting just above Robert Tinsley, who we know was intentionally qualifying towards the end. So can Chris get himself out of the bottom as he crosses the line? He improves one position, overtakes Matt Owens, knocks about half a second off of his time.
Yeah, 2 GT1 cars still out here. Bill Carter-Cundin and David Sockrider, both of them in the Astons.
And a driver who qualified in fourth, something to keep an eye on is Kieran Boafia. We usually see him farther down. He's fast. See if we can get a good result here today.
It looks like Kundinger made a mistake, so he has slowed up, and this lap doesn't look like it will count for him. Sockrider is the next one that's coming through bridge right now. Oh, did he touch the wall there?
Not sure. He's got to hope he doesn't here, Joe, if he wants a good qualifying performance. Right now, kind of towards the tail end of a GT1 field, you see there, sure enough, a whole ladder. That is every single GT1 car, the smallest field we have here today.
Braking for the Ford chicane now, as Sockrider successfully navigates the first half. Then the second half, a little bit off the second apex, might be good to keep those wheels planted. Does he improve his time? The answer is no, did not count. So Sockrider is going to stay second to last out of the GT1s. Now, is Billy Smith actually going to be here? I thought there was talk on the forum.
Put in a qualifying time, but boy, he is at the bottom of the order down there in the GT1s.
He is, and he said on the forums that he wouldn't be able to take part in this one, so I'm not sure if he's actually going to be on the grid. Now, looks like every car has called it a day in terms of qualifying, so let's go through our grid. Jason Girard has put it on pole, and he's got about 7/10 over John Ulmer. Ulmer notoriously not a fan of most of the European tracks here on iRacing. Daniel Gralti will start row 2 and 3rd with Simonik in 4th. Dino Tobik will round out the top 5, and then row 3 has Lionel Duprat on the outside of there. Mark Wilson starts in 7th with Sean Rees in 8th. Then in 9th, Chris Pence, we saw him improve his position by 1 on the last gasp over Matt Owens, who rounds out the top 10. And then Robert Tinsley, who wants to start from the back today to see what he can do from there, will start in 11th out of the prototypes. Bill?
Tinsley may have wanted to start from the back, but the man who wanted to start from the front is Stephen McGarvey. He picks up one of those bonus points that he needs, so now he's only 8 back of the man he's chasing. Paul Lindsay with a good qualifying attempt, 2nd. Then we get to the guy leading in the points, Wojciech Sudovic, up there 3rd in class, ahead of the guy that keep an eye on, Kiradine Boafia, 4th best in class. Carter Kundinger and Leif Peterson fill up the next row there. Brandon Postma, David Sockrider, and then we talked about Billy Smith the second. Not quite sure what Billy's up to down there. Sam?
Then we get to the largest of the fields with GT3, and in the red corner we have the number 4 of Lauro Costa, and in the blue corner alongside him we have Bradley Haley there in the 428. One of them will be the champion at the end of today's race, most likely Lauro Costa, unless he runs into any issues. Jeffrey Ooms and Sheldon Rosenbaum will be starting 3rd and 4th in class ahead of Patrick Fleming, watch out for him, and Dave Hill, the first of 2 Ford GTs in the field. Jim McInnes and Dave Tejeda are on row 4 in the GT3 field ahead of a second Ford GT, Christopher Sherben, and rounding out the top 10 in class is Robert Sklenka. Mark Gajowski and Sheldon Voloshin are the last 2 with times in GT3. You also see the names of Robert Jackman and Kevin Santana there. They didn't set times, nor did the prototype of Scott Corbin. However, unfortunately, I don't see Scott Corbin in the session right now. So looks like we've got a 34 car field.
And that pole for Lauro Costa is important with things so close between Costa and Haley here fighting for the championship. That pole gives him a bonus point, Bill.
It does. The pole's playing important factors in all the classes, as well as Gerard picks up a bonus point thanks to Tinsey starting in the back. Moves him to within 4 of Ulmer now.
The plot thickens. So as we watch the rest of the clock tick down and qualified, we're going to get to go racing for 90 minutes here at Le Mans, and that is going to make it a little bit interesting. If you remember, if you watched the race that didn't count for points earlier on in the season here in the Autobahn series, Sam, that was a 2.4 hour race. Very different strategy than what they have here today with 90 minutes on hand.
Yeah, absolutely. I can speak for the GT3 cars, just as an example. Given the way the time works, 90 minutes, the GT3 cars will lap this place about 23 times. They can go about 9 laps on fuel, to my knowledge, which means we could see them pitting as early as lap 4 or lap 5, but I have a feeling when it comes to these endurance races, there may be a bit of a benefit to running deep in the run, just to be careful, but we'll wait and see. These guys are faster and smarter than me.
All right. One last time, traditional question. Let's go to Bill for the for the HPDs.
Hate to be predictable, but I like the man who is on the pole right now in the prototypes. That's Jason Girard. He qualified only 0.7 of a second faster, and you say 0.7, that seems huge, but not here really at Le Mans. Go down to the GT1s. McGarvey's got to win. I would love to pick Paul Lindsay, who's qualified in second, but I'm going to take the 2 pole sitters right now. Not so sure they're going to win the championship, but I think that Girard and McGarvey should be able to be first to the checkered flag. Sam?
I feel that Lauro Costa is going to take the win and the championship today. Not only was he faster here earlier during the season, during the aborted race, but also we expect strategy to play a key role today. Lauro Costa has been one of the strongest in this division, in the GT3 division, at that throughout the whole season. However, even if Costa doesn't win, I have a feeling he'll still take away the championship. The only thing he's got to be really careful about, Joe, this is not a track where you want to run out of fuel.
Certainly is true. All right, interesting. So we've got 3 predictions, all of them for polls. So remind me if we play poker to bluff the heck out of you guys.
Yeah, not very exciting here. The only guy that has pocket points that are safe here is Tinsey. That's why he can fool around, but McGarvey and Costa both used up all of their cushion earlier on in the season. So, a mistake. I'm sorry, let me correct myself. I'm talking Sudovic and Costa both used up their cushion earlier on in the season. So, a mistake from either one of them will give the championship to the guys who are chasing.
Patrick Fleming in GT3 was meant to start 5th, starting from the pits.
All right, so one of our drivers taking an interesting ploy here. Not sure if that was due to something else, but the roof pace car, as you can see, has taken off. Not too long of a run until we get going here, since they don't want to have to do an entire lap. They just begin right before the Porsche curves. There's our GT1 field, also working their way forward, giving a nice big gap between themselves and the prototype. Same thing, they're back to the GT3s. Also ensuring that they have plenty of room on this start. Relatively decent field, as we pointed out. As even though Corbin is not out there, we've got 34 cars taking to the track today. Lap traffic not expected to be very much of an issue. Not only is it a long lap around here, but there are many, many long straights. It will depend more on where you catch them. Obviously, through here in the Porsche curves might cause a few more headaches. As they come through Maison Blanche, Bill.
Mark Wilson doing a little planning out where to go as he's talking to Reese, just dropping behind me. Mark sitting in 5th position on the grid right now.
Feels like it's crawling, I'm sure. These drivers used to the high speeds. And there are the jets flying over the French Air Force, letting out the tricolor, as is tradition here at Le Mans. Hopefully our director has changed the volume so your ears aren't being blown out like ours are right now. The green flag is out and Gerard gets... oh, what I thought was a decent jump, but then he falters coming to the line. Here comes Ulmer. Very quickly, already has a nose ahead. And this is exactly what Ulmer needs to try and just stay ahead of Gerard, to deny him any opportunity to overtake him in the points, to hold on to that second place as they come through the Dunlop chicane. Big bobble from Gerard, that causes a huge checkup. And look at this, 3 wide. And they sort themselves out, so we got to go back to the GT1s.
McGarvey gets a great jump. Lindsay being challenged, though, by Swiatodovic now as they head down, heading towards Dunlop. I think Swiatodovic is going to have the preferred position. They stayed too wide. Let's stay on this a bit. Lindsay gets it. Swiatodovic behind him. Wafia and Kundinger. Sam?
Well, the Mercedes have gotten single file before they ever took the green flag, and Laura Costa is leading field away. However, I do not expect it to stay like this forever. These guys will get a significant draft on down the Mulsanne straight, and we'll wait and see if any passes are made. Let's see if that's what's going on in HPD right now, Joe.
What a start for Dino Tobik, who is now currently behind Gerard. He was able to fend off the drivers trying to overtake him under the Dunlop Bridge. They're already on the Mulsanne straight, but Tobik from 5th to 3rd on the first lap, demoting Simonek and Gralti.
But nice stretching it out is the big breed. John Ulmer really moving it out there.
And look at this. Tobik isn't going to settle for 3rd as he slipstreams past Jason Gerard as well. Almost a nightmare start for the New Yorker. They can't make their way through the Michelin chicane, now heading up to Mulsanne corner. Is it going to switch back? Here goes Gerard with the slipstream now. Pulls off to the inside. Up and over the crest they go. Through the kink. To the inside, you've got Gerard in the red machine, and Dino Tobik was fighting for it. Almost loses out of position more as Simonek has to back out of it. Here comes Gralti on him now. Fast and thick action here at the top of the HPD field.
Nice to see such a clean start. These drivers will get one fast repair if things go south, but you don't want to use that at such a big track.
The toe is certainly going to hurt if you crash anywhere along this track that isn't at least within the Porsche curves. And even then, you're going to have to wait a while from there to have your car brought in. Tell you what, close battle for second in the GT1s as Swirly is on the back of Lindsay where he started, but he looks to the inside. This is going to be tricky going too wide through Indianapolis, especially on the first lap. But Swirly knows, and he's got enough of a draft that he's actually gone past Stephen McGarvey. They're side by side through the kink, braking hard now for the left-hander. Somehow they make it through, and somehow McGarvey fends him off.
I think these drivers are close enough pace-wise that they can hang on to each other's toe. Back there, Bawafia back there, Kundinger. In fact, here comes Kundinger. Bawafia must have had a slowdown penalty. Kundinger moves up into 4th.
I'm very
for the digger. Go ahead.
I'm very surprised in GT3 we haven't seen Bradley Haley try and make a move on Lauro Costa. Obviously he's within striking range and he's been getting good drafts and good runs on him, but Haley is just content to run second there right now. But of course that's not going to get him the championship. I have a feeling maybe Haley's got another strategy that'll pan out better in the long run than what I'm thinking here. But I'm almost thinking he needs to try and pass Costa and see if he can shuffle Costa back in the pack and maybe push him back to 5th or something. Right now, though, Haley seems content to just sit in 2nd, maybe save some fuel, play some moves later on in the race.
Well, I think Haley knows that he's been beaten by Costa on strategy most of this season. If anything, I would say this is smart of him to just hold behind and see if he can save more fuel than him. Meanwhile, Leif Peterson might be having a few problems in the GT1s as he comes through the Ford chicane.
Put it right in the wall.
On the first lap, not the way you want to kick things off. You can see there just overcorrection as the car got loose. Sent the nose of that Corvette into the tires, and he was able to continue. Now, the thing that I find interesting in all this is that Swirly was extremely aggressive there down into Indianapolis, Bill. I wonder if because this is the final round, this is a gloves-off situation for them where, take the risk. You got nothing to lose.
Could have been a little worried, too, as maybe he hasn't done quite the math that we have, and maybe with Lindsay between him and the leader that he was a little worried running in 3rd. Right now, he's in good position in 2nd. I know he knows that's good enough to get the champion.
Now, Sheldon Rosenbaum was saying something about a speeding penalty.
I think he had to spin pretty much right at the time that we saw the other machine have a spin towards the end of last lap.
And you can hear the thunder of the engines around here echoing as we watch Swirly actually now having to fend off Lindsay, who's closed up on the back of him as they hit the Mulsanne straight.
And Haley's finally taking a look at Lauro Costa as they go down the Mulsanne straight. And so he will move up into that top spot. Now, Costa made a mistake at the end of last lap, almost ran off and gave himself a slowdown penalty at the Ford chicane. Fortunately, he was able to maintain control and keep the lead, but now that position is Haley's.
And just to throw another wrench into things, we keep making a big deal out of Jeffrey showing up and having pace around here in the Autobahn series. Well, you can see that black car, that black Mercedes, as another pass for the lead. Looks like it might take place. Costa going to the inside, down to the Michelin chicane. He's going to take first. But Jeffrey Ooms, if he stays with these 3, he could be going for his first win of the season here.
See what you mean about Sheldon Rosenbaum losing a few positions there. Not a great lap for the Sheldons, because I think it was Sheldon Voloshin actually was the one I was referring to who made a mistake. Rosenbaum had been running up in 4th, so Rosenbaum's mistake has promoted Dave Hill to 4th place, one of our 2 Ford GTs in the race. But already you just see this thing, because we obviously don't see Dave Hill here, well now we do, but it's a 3-car pack for 1st in GT3, and then we have a 3-car pack forming for 2nd maybe even.
Yes, definitely the pack racing you were predicting. It's sad to see that the Sheldon's not making the big bang they were hoping here at the start of Le Mans. But Dave Hill still running that split livery we keep liking to point out. I still can't get enough of that thing. And he's trying his hardest to run away from McInnes behind him as they come into Indianapolis. Now, Bill, you noticed a little bit of a battle up in the HPDs.
Yeah, I hate not to go to the lead, which is pretty tight right now, but let's talk about Dino Tobik. Gerard's got around him, and now he is being pressured by Gralti. And it won't be long till Gralti tries to make that move. Now, up in front, though, we can stand this for a little while. You don't want to miss the pass up front, as Gerard has really...
And there's Tobik with some problems.
Yep.
Did he keep it off the wall there?
He was in one of the trouble zones that I noted in our script. Coming out of the Forest S's, he did not keep it out of the wall. You'll see here as he grabs some grass, the car gets loose and bam! Hard hit to that Armco.
He's had to take it to the pits.
That pretty much caps off Dino Tobik's season and sums it up, I think, in a very apt way.
Yeah, a bit of a helicopter incident at the end there. Unfortunately, he's been a helicopter going around the world. Hopefully, next year we'll see more of the results I feel that he deserves, because he's definitely got strong pace. Just ran into a few issues this year.
Fans of Robert Tinsley, well, his progress has already brought him to 4th. That's not going to stay that way as Simonic's got a draft on him. They're coming up to the Michelin chicane, and Simonic's going to try and outbrake him into there. Tinsley lets him have it. This is a 3-car fight for 3rd, actually, because Gualti just ahead of them. That didn't take long. That was only, what, 3 laps for Tinsley to get up to these guys?
And he's only he's under by 5 seconds to the leader. That's incredible.
Such is the pace of Bob the Blade. Doesn't elect to try and make the pass into Mulsanne, though. He had a draft and lifted before they got to the braking. Wow. Close fight up at the top of the GT1s as Swirly also using that slipstream on McGarvey. And Lindsay is going to use it as well. Is he going to put him down 2 positions? Yes, he does. McGarvey, Lindsay going for 2 positions himself, though. Sneaking to the inside. Here comes McGarvey. Back on Swirly. Looking to fight him around the Michelin chicane. Gets shoved off into the gray stuff. And look at this. He's got Dinger now coming up behind him. And Billy Smith in this fight. 5-way battle for the lead in the GT1s.
Lindsay out in front, leading them all, looking for his first win of the season.
We haven't had a change up in the prototypes for the lead as Gerard has gotten past Ulmer. That was up towards the Porsche curves. Actually, it was before that. Looks like it was on the way to Indianapolis. Here we're going to see the run, the slipstream that Gerard is able to take advantage of in that Itasha machine. Pulls around to what is going to be the outside of the kink, but switches back to the inside of Indianapolis, and he's got it.
Yeah, and that's why if you have a driver behind you, you don't really want to be in front of him at the end of a Mulsanne straight, because you have that run down to Indianapolis. Train to GT3 lead as well this lap. Haley just got from Costa again on the Mulsanne straight.
Yeah, they're swapping back and forth all over, but the one that's really got me a little bit nervous is the one that our director is on right now, and this is the GT1 battle, because it's 5 cars now. Who's out in front right now? Well, I don't know. Who did I check last? Now it's Squirrely out there. It'll change, though.
This is over half a GT1 field.
So we really are hoping that we don't have a big one here as Wojciech leads the way. He retook it on the way to Indianapolis.
You talked about Billy Smith joining the party. Well, here comes Brandon Postma now, as this is going to be a 6-car train.
So can we get every single GT1 car stuck into this thing? Boafia's not too far back. Sock Rider, unfortunately, it doesn't look like he's going to catch them. And we know Peterson had his trouble on the tail end of lap 1 through the Ford chicane, which is where our leaders are heading through right now, snaking through.
And Boafia has the pace to get there. He qualified well. He just had that slowdown penalty. He had a mistake. And
he is. He's
pretty much
closing in
it's
on
there
the
now,
yeah.
Field
Right
running
on board with our leader.
Yeah, field running single file right now. They get the best draft going around here at Talladega Superspeedway.
You know, you say Talladega, it kind of reminds me of the road course at Daytona, because they get in the draft, then they hit basically the bus stop, and then they get in the draft again. It's this time, then another bus stop on that long straight.
Well, they're coming up to the Mulsanne once more. How much are they going to swap around this time? Up at the front, Swirly breaks the air. It's Paul Lindsay in second, but third place is what concerns Wojciech. It's Stephen McGarvey, who's very close behind Lindsay, grabs that slipstream. I think he should be able to get this one if he wants it. The question is he going to continue to cause them to switch back and forth? Lindsay getting a run as well.
Costa hit the back of Haley, and Costa's had to go off. It was minor contact, but I don't know if we'll get a slowdown for that. Haley's getting a slowdown for it. And this is a shame for these two, because now you see Jeffrey Ooms coming back into the picture, but Ooms had made a mistake on the previous lap and actually dropped back from these two. Costa and Haley were basically just riding around 1-2, minding their own business, could have spent the rest of the race like this, until that happened right there.
We're going to watch the replay one more time from above. Way off to the outside there for Haley after the incident. down into that Dunlop chicane, just outbraked himself. Lauro did get on and apologize for the contact. The question is, how damaged is the front of that Mercedes?
Well, the good news is I think within the next 1 or 2 laps, if it is badly damaged, he can come in and get his first scheduled stop done.
Let's go back and replay on Billy Smith. He just spun about 10 seconds ago. He was in part of that 7-car train. They were behaving pretty good. It was through the Michelin chicane that Smith got, I don't know if he got turned. I had a tree between me. We'll watch it right now. I'm seeing it for the first time, really. Let's watch Billy.
I think a little bit too much gas, yeah.
That's a hard hit.
We're going to watch it from on board. Yeah, I think, looks to me just a little greedy with the right foot. And as he tries to correct it, doesn't have enough track to try and keep it out of the Armco. We don't have to go back to it. Simonic had an off, and that gifted a position to Robert Tinsley.
Hey, let's go back to about 8th place, I think this is in GT3, Christopher Sherburn and David Tejeda. Remember, these are the 2 battling for the AM Championship in class. Whichever one finishes ahead gets it. Well, they were just side by side and now Sherburn ahead. Meanwhile, I'm being told Matt Owens just had a bit of an off, but it looks like he's came back out on course.
Lots of action happening here in the finale. Not short of once for great battles out here at the Circuit de la Sarthe. As you mentioned, Sherburn leading the way there in 8th over his main rival Tejeda. We wondered if we would get a battle similar to what we saw last week at Motegi as Tejeda closes up to Indianapolis but runs out of track. And sure enough, these two have found each other again. I'll tell you what, though, they know the score, Sam. They talked about it post-race after Motegi, that they were aware of where the points were and then what was at stake between the two of them.
Well, I've got to ask about the pocket points here, Sue. Because there's so many cars in GT3 today, do they run the risk of finishing so far down the order that their points won't count?
No, the points are distributed so far down that they'll get points no matter what. And mainly they are intervals of 2 points. So even if neither one got a bonus point for the pole, so even if they have a clean lap, it won't make a difference there. So it's basically who finishes in front.
Meanwhile, in 3rd place overall, Robert Tinsley has managed to overtake Gralti. You might notice that Gerard is back in 2nd on your timing sheets there. That's because Ulmer has taken him. And Gerard doesn't seem to be making any moves to overtake. He's just holding behind in the draft. I think Gerard is starting to play the strategy game here.
The best news for Gralti is that Tinsley got around him because now Robert can kind of pull him along. Remember, I talked about Tinsley being only 5 seconds back. He is now almost 7 seconds back of the leader. So he's got his work cut out for him. Still plenty of time for him to run down that interval. Meanwhile, if you talk about big picture, if you're Sviridovich, this is not what you want to see because he needs to at least stay on the back of McGarvey. But he's got all these cars behind him that could be an issue that they can pass so easily. Lindsay can get around him anytime he wants down the straight, and so can Kundinger and Boafia.
There you see that lead battle for the GT1s. McGarvey still holding onto it out of the Michelin chicane as they head up to the Mulsanne corner.
I don't mean to over-strategize, but it is actually in McGarvey's advantage to slow down and make sure that the rest of those guys stay in the hunt.
Could certainly cause the situation that he needs for this to move Wojciech to 4th and lower.
Meanwhile, first car into the pits, but I don't think as scheduled, Mark Kudrowski has a lot of damage to his target Mercedes and probably being involved in something in his GT3 machine there.
Now we had a little bit of traffic in the form of Sheldon Woloshin that our 2 lead HPDs worked their way past, but they have a long ways the next car up, which would be Robert Sklanka, which is the length of this track.
The GT1 battle up front has really kicked off there, Bill. It looked like a couple cars running wide.
Yeah, they are. It's actually, we could spend the whole race is watching these guys battle right now.
Ooh, McGarvey's starting to stretch away, though. I'm not sure how far back.
I think that's a few turns ago, Joe. A couple cars really went deep. I think they all held each other up for second.
This is what McGarvey wants, is for these to be able to break that draft and for those cars to be battling amongst each other so they can solidly stay in first. The question is, how far back does that slipstream go?
It's not even so much the slipstream. It's just you can't do the leapfrog is what these guys are doing. And oh my goodness.
Ooh. That was a bit of an off from Boafia. Managed to gather it back together. Now, I think Omer may have had a slowdown. I'm not sure where he cut the course. I think it may have been coming out of Tertre Rouge. Yeah, it looks to be the case. Went a little bit too wide through there, and
now a big gap back to up to Gerard.
Yeah, nearly 1.3 seconds. Good news for him is it's about 4.5 back to Tinsey.
Yeah, it was 7 a second ago, though.
Meanwhile, in GT3, Haley and Costa are showing how much they can pull away in front of the others when they're not running into the back of each other, as they've pulled out a little ways ahead of, actually they're quite a bit ahead of Jeffrey Ooms here. I almost wonder if Ooms had another mistake this lap, and he may even run the risk of losing that podium spot eventually to Dave Hill.
Another driver falling victim to the slowdown penalties here at Le Mans was Alex Simonik, too wide into the Mulsanne corner. Caused him to have to give some time back. It's something we haven't touched on a whole lot yet, but there's a number of places around here you have to be careful about where you place the car, even though it is paved.
And Boafia just got loose about 15 seconds ago, bounced it off the right side. That was just coming out of Tertre Rouge, so he's out of the train now. Our director's going to find this one.
Just a glancing blow. That Aston losing that grip, and there she goes.
He might be able to hang on. He's about 1.5 seconds behind Postma, which is the caboose of that front train.
Well, that has slowed things down just a little bit. So while we have a bit of a moment, why don't we bring our first retiree in? Unfortunately, it was Dino Tobik, who had a bit of a problem coming out of the Forest S's and found the barrier. Dino, this we were saying this seems like a pretty much a good summary of how your year has gone.
Oh, don't say that.
Sorry. I know it hasn't been your favorite, but the good news is at least you've got a clean slate coming into next year.
Yeah, I'm still debating what to do. I know HPDs will have a few good people, GTs will probably be packed, and GT3s I just haven't done in a while, so I'll just wait until John decides on what to do.
Dino, you had a great start though. You got all the way up, started in 5th, got all the way up to 2nd.
Yeah, that was a little scary. I saw that everybody slowed down. It's like, I guess I'll just pick a side, and I saw Jason was dead slow and went for it. It was decent. Unfortunately, I struggled with rear grip all of practice. I was trying to figure it out, and I did a little bit, but then in the race it just bit me back, and there's nowhere to go.
Well, commiserations on an early retirement here today, but we look forward to seeing what you can bring in Season 6.
We'll see. It'll be exciting new season. I think a lot of people are coming back as well. New cars, new shiny stuff.
All right, always fun to have new toys to play with. That's Dino Tobik, who has wrecked out today, unfortunately. We were looking at the battle for GT1 that changed with Swirly taking the lead. We also saw Simonik pit as we were talking to Dino, and now we were watching the battle just a moment ago for the GT3 lead. That was between Haley and Costa still. Not much more that you could ask for, Bill, having a couple of the championships come down to the wire like this and then seeing the two competitors fighting directly on track for it.
And both still out there. The one thing that you don't want to see is somebody to get put in the wall. If they end up in the wall, on their own doing, that would be one thing. But yeah, with all this fighting going on, and fighting both with Swiatek and McGarvey, and also then with Haley and Costa, and even the battle for second place in the prototypes between Gerard and Homer, exciting.
And now throw into that pit strategy too, because we just saw Simonik pit while we were talking to Dino, and now Billy Smith has kicked off the GT1 stops, and this is all scheduled. They can all make it to the end on one more stop.
You see the Autobahn West driver taking his Corvette into his stall cleanly. Still watching that fight for first in the GT1s. McGarvey still trailing Swirly. He's got a run on him once again as they head towards Forza, but he backs out of it. It's a big lift.
Let's go to the prototypes real quick as Ulmer almost gets into the back of Gerard.
Wow, he has caught him quickly. Remember, he had that slowdown earlier.
You know, Joe, one thing about this track, and I'm just going to go off here, and then correct me if I'm wrong, but in fact, as they work around the slower car there of Fleming, this track is noted for the 24-hour Le Mans, and it seems kind of unfair because I think it would put on great racing. I never had the opportunity to watch like a shorter race that was more competitive. You know, you don't see it quite as aggressive in a 24-hour race. Oh, that was Robert Jackman. Who
has spun in the Ford chicane and manages to get it going without getting in anybody's way. That Merc you're going to see here has some trouble navigating the second half. Just getting on the brakes a little bit too hard, and the rear, as it climbs that curb, decides that it wants to switch sides with the fronts.
Yeah, Jackman's been hot or cold really this season, it seems. He's had some strong performances, but then also I think we've seen him have a couple of races like this where he's just missing a little thing, but I mean, he's still out there. He kept the car intact, running just outside the top 10 now. Let's see where he can end up. Alternatively, the driver in front of him, Patrick Fleming, remember, he started from the pits. He qualified in 5th. He's worked his way up to 10th before we've even completed half an hour of this race. So let's see how many more positions he can gain.
Somewhere along the line, we missed Jeffrey Ooms getting a slowdown or something, because he has dropped off of our lead 2 in the GT3, something fierce.
Yeah, and now he's about to lose that spot to Hill. Now, I know earlier we talked about him getting a slowdown, but as you mentioned, he must have had another one because Hill was a lot closer to him before, and now, sure enough, Hill is up into 3rd. And Dave Hill has had some good performances this season, doing a good job for the Ford GT, and hey, Ford GT has a great history here at Le Mans, and if something were to happen to Haley and Costa in front of him, maybe we could see another one of those blue ovals take the checkered flag today.
Yeah, I found Oom's mistake. It looked like it happened through the Ford chicane there. He just cut the course. Had to serve it down the main straight, so yeah, that's what brought him back.
Hill, in fact, was on the podium last round at Motegi, taking 2nd place behind Haley. Getting some reports that Simonic's computer is studying. That's not what you want around here.
May have contributed to his decision there pit early. Meanwhile, looked like Costa was thinking about making a move for the lead in GT3 down to Indianapolis, but didn't. GT1 stops kicking off again. Kundin Buafia.
And they come in right at the back of the train. They were in the hunt with the guys who were up in front. Lindsay McGarvey and Swiatek.
Well, that kind of defeats the purpose a little bit of running in the train and coming in early, not seeing how far you can go on fuel, unless maybe they save fuel and they're just thinking, hey, we can try and undercut them in the pits.
We're actually already a third through this race. 90 minutes we're on the clock at the drop of the green. We now have about 62 left to go. If you're just joining us, you're watching the final round here in the Autobahn Motorcar Group Sports Car Challenge. In fact, it's a makeup round. They raced here at Le Mans earlier this year, but some technical issues has forced a rerun of the round.
Get a replay of Ulmer. I'm not sure he actually picked up a off penalty, but he had a spin right on track and he lost a ton of time. I don't know if we're going to be able to see. It was probably 20 seconds ago. Looking at it, might have been in the Porsche S, maybe.
I think it was actually out of Arnage.
Was it out of Arnage?
Yeah,
Okay.
he had to have a couple GT3 cars in front of him, Santana and Rosenbaum. Yeah, it was a half spin.
And we'll give you an update when we get back from this. All of the HPDs are coming into the pits this lap. Let's see if they come out the same way they came in. Gerard, Ulmer, Tinsey and Grilty, because Ulmer was able to maintain second position despite this mistake that you see now.
He maintained it, but 2.2 seconds back is Tinsey.
Here he comes. Yeah, that's what was important. In fact, Ulmer coming in right now into the pits.
All of them.
Oh, Gerard in as well. And says Tinsey as
And all of them.
Sam
Let's
said
talk
all
about
of them.
Which HPDs are staying out? Chris Pence is out still, but has he go around to the pits yet?
Nope.
He's coming in right now.
Well, I think it's fair to say that the HPDs can do about 8 laps on fuel, about 30 minutes. Which is a problem, because
Is that fired
lap
up?
24 will be right about when the checkered flag is coming out. Yeah, I hope they can go a bit further than this, or else we might see some HPDs running out at the end.
Makes you wonder if Gerard was trying to save fuel for just a little bit of what was going on there, just holding behind Ulmer, try and stretch it long enough.
So Sam, what you're saying is one of those stints might have to be 9 laps, right? Is that all the way around?
Oh, Alex Simonik has... Didn't he pit early on? Yeah, okay, so all of them are pitted. Simonik's gonna have to pit twice then.
Well, all drivers should have to pit twice.
Well, two more
third
times
time,
from now.
yeah,
Third
with you,
time,
Sam.
yeah.
Yeah, Alex has been out there for 2 laps. He's not going to be able to get there with just one more stop.
Disappointed to see. Alex is another one of those drivers. With the wins being so dominated in each of the classes by only a couple drivers, Alex has been thirsty for the top step of the podium and has yet to find it here in the Autobahn Series, despite getting on the podium multiple times so far this season.
All right, here comes the train of cars in. Sviderdovic, McGarvey, and Lindsay coming in.
Now, this is a pit entry that these drivers certainly need to practice, Sam. I know from my time doing the 24 Hours of Le Mans this year, it can catch you out if you don't do a few reconnaissance entries.
And Joe, talk about that. By the time that they got it all wound up, the accordion effect, that allowed Postma to basically get right behind these guys. He was well back on the track. I mean, he's a car length back down pit lane now.
You can't exactly just allocate 5 minutes to a session and say, okay, I'll spend these 5 minutes practicing pit entry. If you're going to do it a few times, it's going to take you a good half hour.
So Kundinger coming through the Ford chicane right now. Well, I guess it's Boafia. Here comes Boafia is going. Is he going to jump Sviderdovic? I think so. They're all coming, but there they go.
And the plot thickens.
I was going to say, Boafia's had his pit stop. So has the Dinger.
And it's about 4 seconds, so they may not have the pace that's out front. The good news for Boafia and the Dinger is they can both help each other. They can leapfrog down the straights and maybe keep that interval.
Costa and Haley come in, but as opposed to the last time we saw them, it's Costa leading them in. Haley had the lead for the last few laps. I guess Costa realised they were about to pit, and he said, "No, I want to be the one who comes down pit road first." And the rest of the GT3 field, it looks like, going to come in behind them.
And Tinsey has basically caught up to Ulmer now. Maybe 6 or 7 car lengths behind as we look at that beautifully painted car, I got to say, once every race.
Oh no, and Sheldon Rosenbaum. Sheldon Rosenbaum just got on the radio and admitted that he screwed up his pit strategy.
Uh-oh.
He cannot make it back to the pits.
Somebody push him. Dino Tobik, get back out there and push that car around. Maybe I'll make it, he says.
He's going to try and go slow, but this is going to wreck his race. Oh, after all the praise we've been heaping on Sheldon for his consistency, this is going to hurt badly.
But he did a nice trick. He is leading in class, right?
Yeah, if
There you go.
for now.
It doesn't count for anything, unfortunately. No bonus points here in the Autobahn series for leading the lap.
Kind of like that Daffy Duck trick when he drinks the gasoline and swallows a match. It's a great trick, but he can only do it once. Kind of what's happening right now.
And Patrick Fleming is also staying out another lap, but maybe that's a strategy he committed to earlier on to try and save enough fuel to do this. I'll tell you what, Rosenbaum is holding up Ulmer a little bit here. That's allowing Tinsey to catch him right down.
And John let him know. His quote was, if you're going to slow down, don't do it in front of me. Ulmer gets around him. And here comes Tinsey.
Battle for seconds. This is exactly what Gerard wants. He wants Ulmer as far down as possible to overcome those 4 points he needs. Tinsey gets by into the Michelin chicane. Boy, if I was Sheldon Rosenbaum, I would definitely be changing my fuel mapping as well. Pretty sure those Mercedes have a variety of fuel maps that they can switch to. Most GT3 cars have that ability here on iRacing.
You see him in the background there as Ulmer goes around the outside, takes second from Tinsey, but overcooks the turn.
Tinsey comes back at him, but the over-under has the speed as they come up through No Name and Golf Course.
I think Rosenbaum really needs to go faster so he gets to the pits before he runs out of fuel. All right, I know.
Well, there's another 2 cars that might not make it around to the pits at this point.
My goodness, they got close through Indianapolis. Some trust between these two that have raced door to door many times before in this series. Ulmer loses out as Tinsey takes the long way around Indianapolis, but out of Arnage doesn't get the grip that he needs. Here comes Ulmer once again as we ride on board.
I wonder if Grolty will get on the radio saying, if you two are going to wreck, don't do it in front of me.
I think it's more like, if you two are going to wreck, please do it now.
Ulmer ahead.
They go single file through the Porsche curves, now coming out of karting. Got to be careful how wide you go out of there. Can get a slowdown penalty already. We've heard Ulmer bemoan how many he's been getting, how they've hurt him. And as they stay single file through the Ford chicane, could we see another attempt out of here if Tinsey can get the grip? He does not. Oh, big bobble. What a catch. And unfortunately, it's at the wrong time because Daniel Gralti is there to sweep up the pieces.
And right behind him, it looks like Sheldon Rosenbaum will make it around to the pits, although there is time for me to have spoken a little bit too soon. As we watch Grolty take 3rd place from Tinsey there, but give you an update, looks like Rosenbaum's still in this one.
Comes to the pit entry now. He's talking over the radio. It sounds like he's got more than enough. We're not hearing or seeing him sputter. That's actually rather impressive. He must have been just shy.
Well, as he comes in, Costa goes by and re-inherits the lead of the race, but the significant thing there is he has a big gap over Haley. I wonder if he was able to take less fuel, if he'd done a better job at saving fuel, or he was running second behind Haley during the opening stint of the race.
Guys, I am not finding... Oh, there's McGarvey. Okay. Couldn't find McGarvey. Boy, this is interesting. In the GT1s, McGarvey way back in 4th.
3rd now, because he's just overtaken Lindsay.
Oh, he just got Lindsay.
That was up into Arnage. Nice move by Stephen McGarvey. And that puts a car between himself and Swirly, who's dropped back, actually, about 2 seconds behind these guys.
Swirly has got to be careful because if McGarvey can get up to these guys, Kundinger and Buafia, that would be enough.
Certainly will. 51 minutes are left on the clock. We've seen our first round of pit stops. Let's go through the top 5 in each of our classes. Jason Girard leading the way in the prototypes. Ulmer, about 4.5 seconds back after a mistake from Tinsley, has given him some reprieve. Daniel Gralti is actually behind him in 3rd. What a run for Daniel this has been, and Robert Tinsley in 4th. And Alex Simonik, unfortunately, is going to have to do an extra pit stop. We believe he's sitting in the top 5 currently.
In the GT1s, it could be a case of pay me now or pay me later when it came to fuel, and that's Kiradine Bawafia and Carter Kundinger as they run 1-2. They may have short filled. They may have to take more fuel on their second stop. Then we go back to the guys that were in for a longer time during their stops. Paul Lindsay sitting in 3rd. He is about 2 seconds ahead of McGarvey. And then, let me get this straight. Let me correct myself. It is McGarvey in 3rd, Lindsay in 4th, and then your champion, the guy leading in the points, Wojciech Swiderdovic, back in 5th position. And look who's back right behind him. I know we're only top 5. It's Billy Smith.
Potassium Power getting the Banana Man. Lauro Costa up there in front. Or maybe it's just a very fast Mercedes. Getting the number 4 car into the lead of GT3 right now. He has a bit of a gap over Bradley Haley. 2nd position. Then they have a huge gap back to your 3rd position car. As we mentioned, Dave Hill has had some strong performances recently, but not the victory. Could it happen today? Well, we'd have to hope for a bit of action up front. Right now, he's trying to hold on to that last podium position ahead of Jeffrey Ooms, who is running in 4th, but he has run into a little bit of trouble in that Mercedes today. Hopefully, he'll have some clean sailing between now and the end. Kevin Santana in 5th in class right there, and I've got to try and work out how that's happened. For sure, he must have had a pit stop by now, but there he is, 5th place.
Meanwhile, Bill, in GT1s, things are getting more and more interesting.
Well, just when we did that countdown, I brought in hey, and there's Billy Smith. We were doing the top 5, and Billy Smith is 6th. Well, Swirly had a slowdown penalty, so Swiderdovic back to 6th place now. Smith up to 5th. Don't know if he has the pace to stay in front of Swiderdovic, but yeah, it is really getting interesting.
So cool stories in 5th place in GT1 and GT3, because I went back and Kevin Santana has indeed served a pit stop. So after starting at the back of the field, the number 666 has worked his way up into the top 5 in GT3. Although I think he may have brushed the wall there.
Now, in the GT3, the other battle that we need to keep our eye on, Sherburne and Tejada. Sherburn's a number of places ahead of Tejada now. Did we miss a major incident with David?
It's possible. There's also the possibility of taking tyres during a round of stops, Joe.
That could have been what separated them. We'll have to look into that a little bit later to see what we can figure out. Meanwhile, Tinsley and Gralti are fighting, and Ulmer's actually farther back. Ulmer's now in 4th. Was there another slowdown penalty for the Big Cheese?
Nope, he had fallen back, remember, because Gralti and Tinsley were at it. So that's, Ulmer right now is in that position to lose 2nd place. This is exactly what Girard needed. He's got a cushion between him, Ulmer of Gralti, and Tinsley. I think he only really needs one of those. Just to follow up on Sam's point, that's why Sam gets paid the big money. It was about pit stops between the 2 AM drivers down there as Tejada took almost a 52-second stop, so I think he took tires.
Lauro Costa just had the time somehow on track to type track is hot, even GT3 is loose after 10 laps. Valuable information, I'm sure. Maybe it means he'll be taking tyres on the 2nd stop. I'm just trying to work out how he's typing it while he's running away with this race, putting on a rapid pace.
Well, I mean, if you can learn to peel bananas while you're racing, I guess you can learn to type into the chat full conversations.
Our new viewers probably wondering how we made the connection between Lauro Costa and bananas. Other than the fact he's from Brazil, I'm forgetting how we did it too.
You know, you were the one that did it, Sam, so you'll have to tell me. That's all I remember is that you gave him the nickname. But as the Banana Man works to try and seal his championship here, I have to ask, Bill, because you've watched a number of champions and a number of repeat champions as well in series that you've covered. for guys like Stephen McGarvey who have one under their belt, whereas Swirly doesn't, do you feel that makes a difference? Does that take the pressure off, Stephen, or does it do the reverse?
I think it does. From interviewing them countless times, all it seems to do is make them hungrier. They get one, I got one under my belt. I've never seen one like that. It's not, they're just not made up that way. And that goes as well as hot lapping. Even when they're by themselves, they not only do not like to just win, they like to just crush it. Yeah, so, of course, I don't know Steven, he's got one, but I would think, boy, I think getting a second one, he'd love that.
Mercedes 1, 2, 3. Jeffrey Ooms moves back by Dave Hill into third place in the GT3 class. However, let's not forget, that was never really Hill who got third place to begin with. It was Ooms who lost it, although Hill may try and get the position back in the Ford 3T here. But it was Ooms' own mistakes that were costing him earlier. And now he's up there battling Hill for this last podium position. Can he keep it on track and try and get third back and get, as we just mentioned, a Mercedes 1, 2, 3 at the end here?
So Hill running that Ford, still fending off Jeffrey Ooms for now into that podium spot. Fortunately, unless we see some major mistakes from Costa and Haley, Sam won't get to call a Hill crossing the line and get a lump in his throat, but third would be good enough for the Canadian today at least, and add to his tally of podiums throughout this season. Just past the halfway point here at Le Mans. Again, you're watching the Global Sim Racing Channel's coverage of the final round of the Autobahn Motorcar Group Sports Car Challenge. Thanks for joining us here today.
You're welcome.
Wasn't talking to you, Sam.
Oh, we're glad to have Sam back after he had to miss out at Motegi. Glad he could be back to join us for the final round as well. It's been a joy having Sam cover the GT3s this season. We're watching our overall leader, though, extending that gap over Robert Tinsley now to 7 seconds. Gerard knows he can't do anything else with Tinsley. With him sealing the championship, all he cares about today is not just the win, but getting second in the points over John Ulmer. It's been a fight between those top three. Tinsley, Gerard, Ulmer at the top of the points all season long, all of them incredibly close until Tinsley started to just pull away bit by bit like we're used to him seeing in the latter half of this season.
You mentioned the fight, Joe. I think I've worked out why these two, Hill and Ooms, are fighting for third. They don't want to be swallowed up from behind. Kevin Santana, we mentioned how he was fifth, and I was surprised that he was in fifth, given the fact he's quietly worked his way, carved his way through this field, really. He is running them down at about 1 second to 2 seconds a lap. So, who knows, maybe this battle for third could soon become a three-way fight for position.
Oh, Hill.
Go ahead.
Ooms has got a run on Hill, and Hill actually looks like he lifts and lets him through.
That's 5 seconds, you see there in the bottom right of your screen. 4.9 now to Kevin Santana. 4.8 decreasing. I wonder how low it will get.
Interesting thing about Santana being over here in the GT3s is he is our amateur champion in the GT1s this season. Now, I know I incorrectly called him as the leader of the AM Championship points in GT3 as well. He never led those, but right now he's showing himself to be fairly handy in this class. I kind of wonder if he's going to switch over to the GT3s permanently if they keep these guys next year. He's showing himself to be pretty handy here in that Merc.
Yeah, but despite how fast, and you can see the interval for yourself, how much it got cut earlier on in this lap, despite how fast Santana is going, still about half a second to a second slower than Costa and Haley. Such has been their pace, not only this race, but this whole season. They've been pretty quick. Patrick Fleming, I'm being told, is in the pits in number 18 car, and I don't believe that's scheduled.
And
that's very early, yeah.
Yeah. I want to give you an interval between the driver and 7. This is in GT3s.
He's pulling it into the garage. Sorry. Fleming,
going
into the garage.
He doesn't have the little clicker to get the door open, I think is the problem.
He's trying. No. All right, going to do
All
a
right.
K-turn. I think you may have given up on it. Anyways,
Let me give you this interval between the two AM drivers that are racing. We're talking about Christopher Sherburne and David Tejeda. Sherburne running 7th in class right now, Tejeda 10th. That interval is 26 seconds. That's just about what 4 fresh tires will do for him.
Another development, John Olmers finally got up to Daniel Gralti and retaking that 3rd position for the number 902 machine. And Fleming is retiring the car as his habits were indicating there in the pit lane. Sad to see Fleming not see the checkered flag today. That's going to mean that we now have 3 cars who have retired. Dino Tobik, Mark Kudrowski, and the number 18 of Fleming.
Robert Tinsey singing out there right now.
Yeah, something about the more you know. I wish I could caught what all they were chattering about now.
They are working their way through the GT1s here.
It's probably the least we've talked about traffic in any of these races.
Yeah. It's a big track. Let's go to
exactly.
Lindsay. Let's look at Lindsay here. Is in a nice battle with Kundinger.
I'm going to say exactly to that point, Bill, about the track, because it's not through lack of traffic. See a lot of battles out here.
In fact, we should mention. Remember that Kundinger was running in 2nd behind Boafia. Well, now he's fallen back. That's now McGarvey right. That would be McGarvey 2nd in class now. Yes, 2nd in class. And Joe, if it were to stop now, and it never does, so I hate it when commentators say, if it were to end right now, but if it were to end right now, McGarvey would be your champion, I think, racing in 2nd.
Bill,
Swiderdovic in 6th.
you of all people, Mister, if aliens attack in the iRacing world.
Well, if it's going to happen, it's going to happen at Le Mans, though, won't it?
Yeah, I guess so. Speaking of Patrick Fleming retiring, I guess we know what beer he prefers. As he has announced he is going to enjoy the champagne of beers appropriately here in France. I guess sort of appropriately.
Billy Smith.
Miller time is not really French. Go ahead, Sam.
Billy Smith almost joined him. He just ran on the grass and came back on right ahead of Wodrek, and Wodrek just had to watch out of his windshield there, make sure he didn't run into the back of him.
Yeah, that was coming into the Porsche curves up through bridge. That actually would be worth a replay. I'm thinking on board Wojciech.
And Smith's coming in. I'm not sure if that's a bit too early. We'll have to wait and see.
Well, that feels early to me.
There we see Smith's off. And as he returns, with that wall right there, not much in the way of places to go for Swirly, our championship leader currently.
Remember, Billy Smith had that incident where he nosed it in the wall. I think he took his first stop early to get to fast repair, so I think he might be looking at 2 more stops from here.
Yeah, Simonic's in 2, and let's not forget, we think he might have to make another stop after this.
Yep.
Of course, we'll wait and see if they can prove us wrong.
There we see the Clan AOD.net driver pulling into his stall. Also, a quick note, in my defense, I wasn't referring to Miller necessarily as appropriate, but Champagne.
Champagne. No, I got you, Joe.
Okay. I wasn't sure if I was clear there. McGarvey making good on his pit strategy, has moved back into the lead. I'm wondering, Bill, if what happened here is Boafia and Kundinger maybe did not take tires and everybody else did.
No. It's they short filled, I think. I'm sure of it. They were all in there within 5 or 6 seconds of each other, but Boafia and Kundinger were about 4 seconds faster than anybody else.
All right. Interesting.
Billy Smith is in a new race now to try and join Patrick Fleming in drinking that champagne. I'm afraid we've got confirmation Smith has retired from the race.
That's good news for Swiderdovic.
And Sheldon Revolution, I think, is going to join them. He's in the pits, heavy damage, just made heavy contact with the wall.
We're going to watch as the car exits out of Tertre Rouge. Here it's working its way through the Forest S's.
And the wall grabs him.
Oh, and that's why he had to take a tow. Along with it expiring his engine, the Merc, you can see a big slide even on entry. Whew. And unfortunately, a little bit of one of the unique aspects of iRacing, having that situation with the Armco from time to time means that Woloshin is not likely to return to the track today. Meanwhile, our leader overall is still Jason Girard, leading by 7.5 seconds over Robert Tinsley. His main rival, though, right now is John Ulmer, who he wants to overtake in the points to finish second here in the Season 5 championship.
Girard was 5 points back of Ulmer when they started. You get 35 for winning. Ulmer would get 30 for finishing in third. That would put him in a tie. But Girard won the pole. That would give him the win. But I can't take into account incidents. There are bonus points for those. I know John's not clean, so I feel safe on that one.
Speaking of the drama and the battles in the GT3 class, Costa is leading by about 2.5 seconds over Haley. And even if Haley is able to overtake him, Costa's going to have to finish below fourth to lose this championship, and Haley will have to win. So I think unless we see something dramatic happen to the Banana Man, we are looking at potentially our champion for this season. It's not over till it's over,
yeah.
But Costa's putting on what we've seen to be consistent with him.
We saw Bawafia falling back. I think Bawafia is short on fuel, and even though, yes, he just had to go around, he knows he has to make a certain mark. I think he's lifting here. Ulmer upset with somebody named David. Who could that be?
Tejada. That was coming up under the Dunlop Bridge. Let's watch the replay as they break for the Dunlop chicane. You're going to see here as we ride on board. Closes in at a rate of knots. And that TriStar just filling up his face for a lot longer than what Ulmer wants.
Yeah, Tejada already not having a great race considering he's behind Sherburne, but then again, we think it might be due to the tyres. But I gotta wonder, Bill, even though it's a hot track and your car's getting loose, do you really want to take new tyres when there's only 30 minutes of a race left?
Yeah, I think 30 is enough. I think it'll pay off. I would. Well, the only people who have that interesting situation is that Tejada Sherburne battle that we've been watching. Well, let's see if that gap is shrinking. It was 26 seconds before. It's down to 25. So even though Tejada has new tires, he's not picking up a lot.
Here we see Sherburne running that Marlboro Ford GT. It's been a bit of a close fight up at the top of the GT1s. McGarvey only leading by 0.3 over Lindsay, but the real story is Swirly exactly where McGarvey wants him right now, in 5th place. Could we see this thing change hands in the final round? Swirly was leading by such a margin with about 4 rounds to go. We thought that it would take incredible work by McGarvey to turn this thing around.
Watching the guy,
Go ahead, sir.
We're watching the guy in 6th here. There's a battle for 6th in HPD class 2 between Sean Rees and Mark Wilson. Just got it from him. I almost wonder, given the fact I'm a little concerned about the HPD's fuel range, if these two might be worth keeping an eye on in case they're able to save fuel while they're battling like this.
Speaking of Rees, the 2 cars that are in the AM Championship battle in the HPDs are Rees and Lionel Duprat. And though Duprat leads him on track now 5th to 7th, unfortunately that's not going to be enough because the gap between the 2 cars would require Duprat to not only win, but take 2 bonus points to overtake Rees, assuming that he hadn't showed up today. So just by arriving, Rees essentially has sealed his AM Championship. A nice job by Sean to take that trophy home to the Mid-South Club.
HPDs are coming in, Joe. Robert Tinsley just announced he's coming in. Jason Girard leading them in. Let's not forget, the HPDs came in on lap 8 for their first round of stops. All of them virtually came down pit road at the same time. Well, it's lap 16 now. However, you see the big problem there in the top left corner of your screen.
Don't think these pit stops are going to go for a minute and a half here, Sam, so I think you're right. So we see Tinsey there, and it looks like once again it's going to be every single car. Braulty is in, Duprat is coming up to it now as he works his way out of karting.
With which regard, if they do all have to make 3 stops, this isn't actually that bad for SimRacing in the end.
So let me get this straight. If they go 8, they go 16, they can go complete 24 laps, and then they only have to do it twice. The problem is, right, Sam, if they're too fast and they complete the 24th lap too soon, then they'll have to do a 25th, and they might not have enough fuel.
Well, the problem is the second round of stops started with about 32 minutes left on the clock.
Exactly, and Gerard has already exited out with about 31 minutes left. Kiradine Boafia has come in for his stop, apparently incredibly close for that Aston Martin. He had 1/10 of a gallon left in his machine.
Didn't see anyone staying still to take tires there, really, Bill.
No, it is 90 minutes. Maybe they don't need. That's right on the break-even mark.
Well, let's not forget this track is large, yes, and it does have a lot of turns, but it also has a lot of straights where those tires can cool down.
All of our HPDs are still on the lead lap, that are still running at least. Matt Owens is the last of them, about 2 minutes and 50 seconds behind our leader.
See, now Kundinger and Boafia both had to come in and make their stops 1 lap early, so they did short Bill. McGarvey, Lindsay, and Swidrova staying out. Go ahead.
1/3 of the race is left to go. 90-minute event here today at the Circuit de la Sarthe. We're waiting for the rest of our classes to finish their pit stops, and we'll go through the order once more for you. Gerard has extended his gap to nearly 10 seconds over Tinsey. But again, that is not the driver he is worried about. It's John Ulmer who sits in 3rd. Bill, is that going to be enough? We know that Gerard's got the bonus point.
I think the bonus with the pole should give him right now a 1-point lead. That we're talking about Jason Gerard over Ulmer. I can't take into account those incidents. Don't know what's going on there.
This is true. This is true. Actually, that's a good question. If they tie on points, how many wins does Gerard have, and how many does Ulmer have?
Yes, we'll look at that.
All right, well, Bill is checking that out, though. Let's go back to our GT3s and see how they sit, with Costa still leading by about 2 seconds over Bradley Haley. So still within his windscreen, Sam, but just once again, it seems like the Comet can't do anything with him.
No, not yet, but the battle for 3rd, I think, could, unless they space each other out during the round of stops, could heat up, with Ooms and Hill still running nose to tail with less than 30 minutes left to go on the clock.
Less than a second between them. Hill has got to wonder, what is it going to take to get another win? He did take one at one of the most important tracks for him at home, on home ground in Mosport. Oh, and there's an off for Ohms. Brings it back on course. I don't know how. We're going to watch the replay of this one, Sam. My goodness.
Well, let's see what happens here. Everything's going smoothly, then he gets a little bit of a grass, I suppose. Yep.
Great job keeping that out of the barriers. They are right there coming out of those Forest S's, and he didn't lose the position either, which that may change as Hill closes up when they come up to the first chicane of the Mulsanne Straight. Going to get another bite with the slipstream pulling him along here on the second part.
GT1 leaders into the pits to be expected, Bill. They came in on lap 9, they're coming in on lap 18.
I think
at least for the overall leaders, they're actually a lap down.
I'm with you there, and Lindsay in there as well. Now the question is, where is Kundinger? I'm not sure if he's going to get there this time.
Well, McGarvey has come in and out as he exits the pits. Bill, did you have a chance to tally up the wins of Gerard and Ulmer?
Yeah, the news keeps getting worse for Ulmer. They have 4 wins each, which would sound like a good news, but we're going to assume Gerard picks up a win here today. So not only that, Gerard is going to win the tiebreaker as well. So Ulmer's got his work cut out for him. I don't think he can stay where he is right now. He needs to get Tinsley. Or Tinsley needs to get Gerard.
Either way, it'll make for a happy big cheese.
You can't get the big 3, baby. We're friends.
Fromage, big fromage. Actually.
Fromage, okay, there you go.
But yes, if he can't have the championship, I'm certain that you would want a second place. As we mentioned last round, actually, John Ulmer has things to cheer about still, as he is a new grandfather. One of his daughters had her first child.
That's fantastic news. Being a grandfather, I think, might make you a bit slow on the track, but congratulations there, John.
The joke in the forum is because his nickname is the Big Cheese, and the grandchild's going to call him Papa. They're going to call him Papa John, which of course is noted for cheese pizza.
For pizza, yeah. Oh boy, poor John. Can't get away from it, but he takes it in good humor, thankfully.
Now, of course, Papa John is now a sponsor over in drag racing. He actually goes and races Leah Pritchett, who races the car that he sponsors. I think Leah usually wins it.
Oh, there we go. Well, there's some good news for him. As we watch Ulmer continuing to run in third, Chris Pence has come in for his stop down in 9th in the HPDs. Pence, a newcomer to this series this season, hasn't made a huge splash, but has been running consistently week in and week out. Not an easy car.
Splash a fuel reference there, Drew?
I didn't even think about that one, actually, but I'll take it. I was going to say, not always easy to drive these cars fast.
Well, nothing bad here. Dave Hill and Jeffrey Ooms into the pits. Lap and Kevin Santana, all these guys pitting a lap before Lauro Costa and Bradley Haley.
Oh! Big news! Swirly gets tipped off coming into the Mulsanne corner.
They both keep it off of everything. They don't watch out for the traffic.
He doesn't lose a position. Postma was the one closing on them. I was watching that and thinking, well, this is going to change things because this is what Swirly needs. He needs to be up in 4th at least. And look at this, under braking. Does it chop him off?
It's Bawafia there that he got into it. Not Postma. There we go. Look at that.
That's the most dramatic non-change of position of it.
Yeah.
Well, Bawafia did lose the spot to Postma. Which, no offense to Bawafia, but not the important change of position that we were looking for. Even still, significant for Wojciech, as he is now in 4th.
It puts him that much farther behind Kundinger, who had a chance to run down. We talked about it, Joe, in the pre-race. You and I did the number. McGarvey in 1st and Swirly in 4th. McGarvey getting the bonus point for pole. I think McGarvey's sitting in the catbird seat right now.
Ooh, and Wojciech was sliding through the Porsche curves. This has allowed Postma to get him. Is there damage on Wojciech's car?
And Bawafia has apologized for the incident in the chat.
I don't think apologies will mean much if it costs Swirly the championship here. Is he going to stay out? Is the car damaged? Oh, no, he stays out.
Well, good news when the car's a little damaged is as the laps goes on, you learn how to drive it a bit differently.
If he's limping, though, he could be easily under threat from Postma behind him and Bawafia as well, as they have David Tejada coming out beside them from the pits.
And the GT1s are a definite 2-stop car, so there's no reason he can't afford to come in now and get it fixed.
His biggest hope, I think, is that Bawafia starts to attack Postma, and he can pull away and not be under threat so that he can hold on to that 4th place.
Well, it's already pit though, Bill. We can make it to the end here.
Well, that's what I mean. But if he has a damaged car,
yeah, he has no reason to pit.
He has no opportunity to come in and fix it without crushing his hopes. Unlike the prototypes, where might have to do a third stop of splash and go.
That is going to be fascinating come the final 5 minutes of this race.
I can't imagine there's not at least one or two prototypes out there right now trying to save fuel.
Yeah.
Simonik is the first one with a big gap to the next car. He's about 20
but we know
seconds from
he's got to
Gralti.
pit again because he's off sequence. Chris Pence coming in right now. I think he actually just had a bit of a moment.
Checking to see if Pence maybe had an off track.
And right behind him, Laura Costa and Bradley Haley are coming in. This is what I was trying to get to the points about the GT3s when we saw that GT1 incident, is despite their incredible pace, Costa and Haley could actually go further than the rest of the GT3 leaders.
Just incredible stuff.
And just
As they both hit their marks.
To follow up about tires, nobody has done that tire change yet. They're all doing it on a one set other than David Tejeda.
I think Haley has an opportunity here in the pits. Costa, the only way I see him losing the championship is if he doesn't take enough fuel. But sure enough, Costa actually pulls away from Haley here. But I almost wondered if Costa was going to be conservative on fuel and make sure he took enough to make it to the end, whereas we would see maybe Haley try and short fuel it and throw caution to the wind, just try and get the win of this race. Doesn't look like that's the case though. The gap between them right now is pretty much the same as the gap when they came in. If not, in fact, Costa has extended it a bit. Swirly in trouble.
Oh no! And is this with Buafi again? It looks like it is. He's off track. Oh, boy. Buafi had a run. He was side by side into Indianapolis. And with one fell swoop, I think Kiradine has moved himself off of Swirly's Christmas card list.
You can apologize.
And Jackman was involved in that as well. Postmo was able to make it through. I think Jackman actually got the wall trying to escape that. We're going to see on board whether or not he did. Oh, he did get the back of that Aston Martin, and he did indeed get the wall as well.
And Buffy has had to come into the pits, but I think Swirly's good to stay out.
We'll see. There's quite a bit of damage on his GT1.
Oh, yes, Swirly's coming up now. He's coming in.
Oh. This might be the death knell for Wojciech's championship hopes. McGarvey at this point only has to finish.
And that's the risk you take, though. If you're Wojciech, you're racing back there with guys in 4th, 5th, 6th place drivers. No offense to them, but they're not Stephen McGarvey, who you can trust, you know?
Well, and even Kiradine Buafia, as you mentioned, apologized in the chat. He was not as familiar with this car. He was used to running the Corvette.
Well, Swirly's coming out.
He took his spare car. Even still, the damage is done. Swirly is down in 7th? 6th.
He has to get 4th, right?
To ensure it. Now, if something happens to McGarvey, he could still take it, but it gets more complex from here on out.
Well, Swirly's thinking it just happened to me. It can happen to Stephen as well. So,
absolutely.
Yeah, well, David Sockrider only a couple of turns ahead. We'll have to see what their pace is like.
Well, that's all the pit stops scheduled, at least, for our 3 classes. Let's go through the top 5 in each of them to give you the score before we come to the checkered flag. Jason Girard is leading by about 5 seconds, so Tinsley has started to gain now. It was 10 before. I wonder if maybe Girard is trying to save fuel to get to the end without another stop. Ulmer is about 3 seconds back from Tinsley, sitting in 3rd. Daniel Gralti runs in fourth, quite a ways back, about 11 seconds. And then 17 more seconds to round out the top 5 for Simonik, who we believe has to make one more stop for sure, being off sequence. What's the GT1s?
Well, it's your defending champion, and he's on his way to his second crown, Stephen McGarvey. He's got almost 14 seconds over Paul Lindsay, who's racing second in class. About 5 seconds back to Carter Kundinger. Then you get to Brandon Postma running in fourth, and how about a little bit of love for David Sockrider? Haven't mentioned him as he moves up into the top 5. Svidordovich back in sixth now.
Yeah, over in HPD, give you a quick update there. Simonik has come into the pits, although I still think all the rest of them are going to have to pit as well, so we'll see how that pans out. But let's go over to GT3, where Lauro Costa has continued to build up his lead over Bradley Haley. It would take really a disaster for Costa to lose the championship at this point, but we've seen crazier things happen in motor racing. There's Haley in second place. The battle for third continues. Jeffrey Ooms has the upper hand right now, but there in the back of your screen you see Dave Hill in the Ford GT, representing Ford there, running in fourth place. Ford fourth, he'd prefer Ford third. We'll wait and see if he can do that in the closing moments here, as he's got some HPD traffic to watch out behind him. Sheldon Rosenbaum is the driver currently rounding out the top 5. No, he's not. Kevin Santana there. Yeah, the time and scoring updates. Kevin Santana, I thought he'd be able to run down these guys battling for third. He hasn't done it yet. Maybe he needs Zooms and Hill to mix it up, and then we'll have our three-way battle for third place. GT3s, unless any of them didn't take enough fuel, they're all good to go to the end.
So there's your update in each of the classes. As well, Bill, you've been kind of keeping a half an eye on this GT3 AM Championship.
And no matter the new tires or old tires, Sherburne has about a 21-second gap over David Tejeda. If Tejeda's going to catch him, he's got to start doing it now.
Only 14 minutes left, and in these cars, with as long as the laps are, we're looking at, what, roughly 3 or 4 laps left? 4 laps left, I believe.
Yeah, that 3 or 4 laps is very important to some people named like Gerard Tinsey and Ulmer, who would like this to be a 24-lap race, 25-lap race. I don't know if they can do it.
Yeah, I'd be curious to see if we're getting any lifting and coasting with some of our front runners in the HPDs, or if maybe they've just simply turned the mapping down on their fuel.
Well, the top 4, Gerard Tinsey, Ulmer and Gralti, have about 50 seconds ahead of Lionel Duprat 5th, and we got trouble.
Gerard is, yeah, as we ride on board, he is in fact putting the clutch in to try and save fuel. We heard it through karting. So we were wondering if they're saving fuel, and well, that answers that.
Yeah, so that wasn't trouble. That's him, as you mentioned, trying to save fuel. The engine sounded like it had trouble, but no, just cutting out, trying to coast there with the clutch. But like we say, if all 4 of these did have to pit, they'd get out ahead of Duprat anyway, so he'd still be in the top 4.
I wonder if we could ride on board with Tinsey, because with how he's catching Gerard, I don't think he's doing the same strategy. So ride on, take a listen. A little bit of a different strategy. He is trying to save fuel because he's coasting a little bit here, Bill, but he's not actually clutching, which is a little bit more of a desperate attempt.
This is great. So walk me through this. If I come up to the start finish line, I can stop and wait for the clock to go over. Will that work or not? I can't do that.
I don't believe it will, because iRacing has estimated it based on the average lap time.
Okay.
So it basically it's.
I have to take the white flag. Maybe I could do it before taking the white flag. I can.
Yeah,
stop.
I believe you have to get the white flag before you can get the checkers.
Well, the other problem there, Soup, is when second place is only 2 seconds behind you, you can't really game it that much.
Yeah. Unless he has to do the same thing. Maybe they can pull up right before the white flag and Tinsey and Gerard can stop and talk to each other. Wait for the clock to go down and then cross the line and win their race the last lap.
"11 minutes now left on the clock." Incredibly, despite the almost non-stop action that we've had throughout this race, I'm looking through our timing and scoring, there is nobody closer than Gerard and Tinsey. Everybody else is at least over a second apart from each other.
Well, at the very back of HPD, Chris Pence and Matt Owens are quite close.
You know, Owens must have actually recently overtaken Pence then, because Pence was ahead of him a few laps ago.
I think Owens has run into trouble a few times.
Oh!
Swirly's crashed! Swirly's lost it on his own this time. Maybe it was due a bit to the damage that he had from the contact with Boisvier, but there go any chances he has of getting up into the top 5.
We're watching on the replay. I don't think this was due to previous damage. He took his spare car. This was just pushing too hard, and with Bridge having the Armco right to the outside, it's like a street course through there. You can see the results. We're going to watch it one more time from above. This is where the championship hopes come to a complete halt.
Unless McGarvey hits trouble.
Well, the only thing is, though, he'll still finish ahead of Swirly from here.
Well, did Swirly take a tow? Yeah, he's back,
pulling
back
in right now. It's going to take a lot of repairs. I'm pretty sure the way that car hit, it's going to be more than 10 minutes.
Hey, Tinsey's really caught up on Gerard towards the end of this lap. I wonder if that is due to the fuel saving you were mentioning.
I do believe that's the case.
And Ulmer not far behind.
This is huge, though. Gerard cannot afford to give up this spot. He wants to hang on to second.
Whoa! Tinsey, deep on the brakes, actually locks him up briefly. And they've got Leif Peterson up ahead of him, who dutifully pulls off to the side. Lets one through, lets two through, just barely, as Bob the Blade exercises his renowned skills.
If fuel is an issue, and clearly it is, I just can't believe that Gerard is going to be in worse position than Tinsey.
Well, and now what's worse is even if he picks it up, Tinsey's going to have the draft and can stay with him. So if they're able to go flat out, now Gerard is very much under threat.
Yep. Ulmer is knocked back. Ulmer is dropping horribly, losing tenths of a second. He must really be saving.
Oh, he was closing not long ago. I think maybe he actually got another slowdown just a bit ago. I'm taking a look. Yeah, I think it looks like... Yeah, I do believe he went a little bit wide out of Tertre Rouge, so that explains the sudden jump in the time there. Down to 3/10 between Gerard and Tinsey, though. Let's stay on this battle, but I want to talk for just a second. You know, we talk about Swirly's championship hopes leaving and that mistake and all the things happening in this race. We should touch on, there have been a lot of things happening to Wojciech in the last few rounds, things that could have gone differently, as could we have a lead change here in the prototypes? And yes, there it is. There's a lift from Gerard. Slots in behind Tinsey. But what I was talking about, Bill, there's always that, oh, well, if things had been different. Well, you could say that about every race of the season.
Yeah, absolutely. You take your would-haves, your could-haves, and your should-haves with a dime and buy yourself a cup of coffee. Because, yeah, that's what racing's all about. Just to follow up on what's going on with Gerard, I don't think Gerard's that unhappy to be trailing now, maybe save a little fuel behind Tinsey.
I was just thinking the same thing. Wonder if this was what he wanted, actually.
Yeah, this is familiar of a recent Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series race where I believe it was Martin Truex Jr. at Watkins Glen let by about 3 cars in the closing stages, pretty much just assuming that if they continued at the pace they'd be going, they wouldn't make it to the end on fuel. He was right. I'm gonna keep an eye on the clock when Tinsey comes across the line this time by, see what we are looking at in terms of how many laps we have until the checkered falls.
Gerard is still clutching. He is still trying to save fuel, and unfortunately it's hurting him in these corners. He's struggling to try and get it around as fast as Tinsey is. He's going to have to hope at this point that Tinsey is running on less, is not going to be able to make it to the end.
Alright, so Tinsey crosses the line with 5 minutes 54 seconds left. Let's do some math. Well, it's not that hard to do.
Not that hard, is it?
Yeah, 3 minutes 42. They've got 2 laps left.
I think Tinsey is going to try to open it up and splash and go.
He just said something on the radio, and I wasn't sure if it was in regards to the fuel.
Tinsey, just said, what did he just say? I have enough. I've been told I can rewind.
We keep missing it, yeah.
Of course, when I say 3 minutes 42, that was Tinsey's qualifying time I was going off of.
I think we might have our answer. There was a joke from Simonik saying that he should take tires as well. I wonder if this means that Tinsey has said that he's got to pit. Yeah,
that's why he is. That's why he's going. There's no reason to save if you know you can't make it.
Yeah, well, I guess Tinsey's gamble is that he expects Gerard, Ulmer, and Grolte will all run out. Of course, Grolte has really backed off of these guys. He's 20 seconds behind, so I wonder if he's been doing a very good job at saving fuel.
Duprat has as well. He's now 51 seconds back of... Oh, wait, no, excuse me. I was thinking of Simonik, who was in that.
And I was watching a Grolte. He just spent a ton of time kind of sitting behind Matt Owens in a getting a tow before he pulled out.
Yeah, Owens was a lap down.
Right.
And wasn't racing with him. Fascinating stuff here in the dying stages of the last round of the Autobahn Motorcar Group Sportscar Challenge. You're watching the Global Sim Racing channel. One championship has been decided. Robert Tinsey took the crown a couple rounds ago in the HPDs, but the fight for second is between Gerard and Ulmer, and that has still not been decided. We believe McGarvey should have the crown if he can just see the checkered flag here for the GT1s, and then Lauro Costa, unless disaster strikes, should be able to take it home here in the championship for the GT3s.
With Tinsey having to pit, that's a possibility that he'll let, well, obviously Gerard and probably Ulmer by as well.
Yeah.
So that gets Ulmer back into the second place.
Which should actually mean that Ulmer should take it then. Take second place.
Yep.
That's assuming that Ulmer can get to the end. If Ulmer has to pit. Oh, and Bradley Haley had a problem.
He almost hit the wall as he had a big moment, guys.
We're going to watch on the replay. This is some incredible skill, some fast hands. Woohoo! The Rainier Racing Machine able to continue on as we come back live. We're going to see if Tinsey pits through Maison Blanche. This is where pit entry is, right here as he comes up, and he does. Tinsey is in. Gerard stays out.
Tinsey gets loose on the grass.
Off on pit entry.
Oh, and Ulmer's coming in as well and also botches the pit entry. This means that Gerard could actually take it. If the question is, are either of them going to get a penalty on their pit entry?
Now, fourth place Daniel Grolte, I expect to stay out. Now, of course, Grolte could actually win this. Let's not forget about him.
He stays out. Could Grolte be on the podium here?
Well, could he win it? He's about to pass these two, and if Gerard doesn't have enough fuel, it will be Grolte's.
Yeah, so all the eggs are in one basket now for Jason Girard, the New Yorker, as we watch Robert Tinsey exit the pits. He is going to get out ahead of Ulmer. This demotes Ulmer to 4th, which, as long as Girard can win this, that does ensure him 2nd place.
Girard with 20 seconds over Daniel Grolty. Take as long as you need, Jason.
I was going to say, now is the time for a lot of lifting and coasting.
Well, it was going 192 miles an hour down that straight, so I don't know how much coasting that is.
We ride on board. Let's listen as he comes up to the 2nd chicane on the Mulsanne straight.
Lionel Duprat and Mark Wilson, also HPD's pitting on the last lap, so that will move Simonik back up into the top 5.
That's a huge lift from Girard. Now there's some chatter between our top 3, as Ulmer is admitting that he thinks that they've beaten them on strategy.
Yeah, he said if they put in the time to figure that out, they deserve to win, is what he said.
Absolutely.
Look at Tinsey catching Grolty. Is Grolty trying to save fuel?
Yeah, there's only 3 seconds between them. We're listening to some of the drivers talking back and forth. Very cheerful with this being the last round. Not much at stake for most of these drivers.
Alright, the clock hits 0, but Girard is still going up to Indianapolis right now.
Looks so close on my track map. It's only about 5 or 6 inches. I think he should be able to get there.
Oh, if only things worked as they do in Bill's head. But right now, Girard still has about a 28-second lead over Grolty. Grolty could still lose this to Ulmer, too, depending on how tight it is for Grolty on fuel. It's about 7 seconds between himself and the Big Cheese.
I've got to imagine Girard thinks he's safe now, given the fact I really don't think he's done a lot of coasting this lap. He can definitely afford to do so.
Absolutely. The one thing he doesn't want to do is completely run out and not be able to coast to the line. He's coming out through Maison Blanche as he passes Jim McInnes for one more lap.
Whoa! Little tease down the pit lane.
But as he comes to the line through the Ford chicane, give the win here at Le Mans to Jason Girard.
Next battle will be for 2nd here in HPD, because Grolty is losing time to Ulmer.
I think that's Tinsey actually that's running him down.
Sorry to Tinsey, my apologies.
Ooh, this is going to be tight. Tinsey wants it. Grolty probably would love to get a 2nd place after a couple of 3rds recently. Just this one corner to go, and he's got traffic ahead of him. Is this going to come into play as he comes out of the final corner? It's going to be close, but he gets the grip, and Grolty is going to take 2nd. Tinsey is 3rd.
Yeah, GT3 and GT1 leaders so far back. Simonik will round out the top 5 before they ever get there.
I believe the next one is going to be McGarvey, if I'm seeing right.
Yeah, Costa's about... Actually, I think they're almost behind each other on the track. It'll be Costa and then McGarvey. Boom, boom. In fact, McGarvey probably has them.
Just saw McGarvey at the back of a picture there.
I believe that's what we had at Motegi, all 3 of them finishing together as well, didn't we?
Yeah, that'd be...
It was one of the recent ones where we
nice.
just, gave us the most easiest finish call ever. Actually, I think it was VIR is where it was.
Lauro Costa recently, though, boy, throughout the season it's been Haley and Costa were fighting back and forth, but man, as of recent, that number 4 Mercedes, we seem to be calling him across the line first, more times than not.
Well, Costa did mess up the fuel one round. His strategy isn't bulletproof at Phillip Island. Remember, he pitted on the last lap and lost it as the leader streamed by and couldn't finish, got demoted down. That could still happen here today, and he could give it up to Bradley Haley, but it's not looking likely with how strong he's running. Certainly not showing signs of saving any sort of fuel as he comes into the Porsche curves. And how about the car behind him, Stephen McGarvey? We didn't think it looked likely that he could rally back partway through this season, that he could retain that championship crown in the GT1s. He sure was given a run by the rookie of Swirly. But he's showing today why he was champion last season and why he's champion once again. And Costa's going to let him come through. He's going to let us call Stephen McGarvey first. Through the Ford chicane, your champion of the GT1s is going to be Stephen McGarvey, and your winner here today in France. Same with Laura Costa, winning the race for the GT3s and sealing the championship for that crown.
Great battle for third on the final lap in GT1 between Carter Cundiner and Brandon Postma. They have been trading it back and forth. They're closing in on the lines now. The races for second will have been decided ahead of him. Not much changes there, with Paul Lindsay second in GT1 and Bradley Haley second in GT3. It looks like Cundiner's going to come out on top here, Bill.
They head up into the Ford chicane. Yeah, I think so. A good run from Cundinger. He qualified 2 spots ahead of Postma. Going to finish 1 ahead.
A beautiful podium for the Dinger after a disappointment in the Predator Series, but that is going to finish things out here. We're going to go to break here on the Global Sim Racing channel. On screen, you're going to see all the upcoming races here on the channel, but after that we'll have the unofficial results as well as driver interviews. Don't go away, it's the finale. Welcome back to Circuit de la Sarthe in Le Mans, France. After the final round of the Autobahn Motorcar Group Sports Car Challenge, we crowned our last two champions as well as our AM champions. But up at the top of the field, Jason Girard managed to get one final punch in this back and forth slugfest up in the prototypes. He took the win, and we believe he took second place in the points. Daniel Gralti, how about a second place for him? Proving himself to be one to watch. Strategically, he played a masterstroke alongside Jason today. He beat out Robert Tinsley by less than a second at the line, who rounds out the podium. John Ulmer admitted after the race that he saw what Jason was doing when he saw that they were catching them. By that point, it was too late for him to try to save the fuel, and he was committed to that three-stopper, and that gave him fourth. Alex Simonik came home with fifth with a three-stopper that was a little bit different from everybody else, with some early trouble forcing him into that situation. Lionel Duprat comes home in sixth. Mark Wilson finishes in seventh with Sean Reese. Your AM championship for the prototypes, taking home eighth today. Chris Pence finishes ninth, a lap down, and Matt Owens, also a lap down from our leaders, rounds out the top 10. Bill?
Luckily for me, GSRC doesn't pay by the names, as I only have a half dozen drivers to call off here before I get to the GT3 leader. Let's go ahead and talk about your defending and two-time champion now, Stephen McGarvis. He's able to do it. He comes home with the win ahead of Paul Lindsay and Carter Cundinger, rounding out your podium. Brandon Postma, David Sockrider, and Leif Peterson. And then we get back to the GT3s.
Yeah, I had a feeling with me doing half a field here, I would get paid by the name. All right, well, let's start off with Lauro Costa, who received the lion's share of camera time today with the Savannah-coloured car of Bradley Haley behind. Rounding out the top three would be Jeffrey Ooms, also in the Mercedes. Then we get to the Ford GT, Dave Hill. Well, I've got to continue even though I've got a lump in my throat. Ahead of Kevin Santana in the Devil 666 car, rounding out the top five. Jim McInnes in sixth position in his Mercedes, ahead of Sheldon Rosenbaum. And then Christopher Sherburn in the Ford GT, eighth place. He wins the AM Championship in GT3. Robert Trackman and David Tejeda round out the top 10. David Tejeda was a runner-up in the GT3 Championship, ahead of Robert Sklenka. And then we get to the drivers who had trouble today with Swirly back there, as well as Boafia, Smith, Woloshin, Fleming, Kadrowski, Topich, and Corbin, who was a DNS. Once again, since we're getting paid on the name, that was Costa, Haley, Ooms, Hill, Santana, McInnes, Rosenbaum, Sherburn, Jackman, Tejeda, Sklenka, Swirly, Boafia, Smith, Woloshin, Fleming, Kadrowski, Topich, and Corbin. Joe!
Boy, a lot of retirements there today. We didn't really pay as much attention to that because we were so closely watching the points battles, but first points battle that we want to talk about, and the person we want to talk to is Jason Girard, winner here today in the prototypes, and we believe has bumped himself up into second in the championship. We have to ask Jason, was that your goal here today, other than just winning this thing, but to get yourself back ahead of John?
No, I just wanted to win. I didn't really care too much about the championship at this point, since it's already lost at this point. But I'd like to dedicate that victory to hypermilers.com and iSpeed for helping out with the fuel calculations in order to get me to the end there.
Yeah, talk about that fuel strategy. This was a different race from the 2.4-hour one that wound up not counting for points. Did that help you at all try to figure out how to run this fuel-wise, or was this just a completely different beast?
Well, there's a lot of open throttle here, so doing the calculations and given the cool weather conditions, I knew that, I won't bore you with the details, but I knew that we weren't going to be able to make it on two stops without at least one 9-lapper. So I figured I'd leave it right to the end so that nobody figured out what I was doing, and hopefully a circumstance would give me enough of a lead that I could get away with it. And, I had about 10 or 11 seconds after that second pit stop, so I was able to just stay ahead and coast and lift and coast and lift, and just make it all the way to the end.
Here's the question that I don't know if you're willing to divulge, but I'm sure a lot of people want to know. How much was in the tank at the end?
I made it all the way around to Mulsanne Strait, about halfway down it before I ran out of gas. So I had about, I had a little bit. I had about half a kilo left on.
So it was a fair amount then, but couldn't have gotten one lap more, obviously. Well, again, congratulations. What a great rally to finish out the season. 2 wins, I hope, make up for at least a little bit of losing the championship crown.
Yeah, thanks, Joe. I'd like to thank Autobahn Motorcar Group, John Ulmer for putting on the league and putting on yet another great season. GSRC for providing their great broadcasting as always. Congratulations to Robert Tinsey for winning the prototype. And I'd like to thank one more group of people. You know who that is, Joe?
Are they from the Far East?
They might be. My Japanese people, you know it. Peace out, guys.
Right. That's Jason Gerard, always putting a smile on everybody's faces here and taking the win today. Up next, I believe, looks like we're going to go to Sam with our winner in the GT3s. The Banana Man took home the win and the crown.
Yeah, Laura, first off, I apologise for giving you that nickname, but I'll tell you what, you're probably happy anyway right now because you got another win and you got the championship.
Oh yeah, finally, we solved this problem with Le Mans. Having to run here again, of course, was the right thing after what happened the other time, but it's so hard to come to the same race, and it's a different pressure, you know, feeling like if you won the first time, you just need to win again. So I just wanted to have the perfect race. Was not quite perfect, but it worked out at the end. Really happy about this win today.
I saw you in the race. During the race in the track towards the end, you were saying that you wish you did this circuit 3 times during the course of a season. Is that because you're good here, or do you just do you think that this circuit suits this racing?
Nah, I was just making fun because I think Tinsey said he was bored at the end of the race. I think he was just worried because he didn't have enough fuel or something like that, but he was joking on the chat, so I said, yeah, maybe next time we do it 3 times so everyone can have a chance to get bored of this track. But it's just joking. It's a good track. It's fun. I feel like I have a good pace here. Got pole position both times and won the race both times. So I feel like it's a place I can show some fuel saving, that I enjoy doing that, and my speed is quite okay here as well. So yeah, I do like this circuit. The only downside it is in France, but it's okay.
Yeah, 2 wins from pole at the same circuit during the same season. That's got to feel a bit like deja vu. Did you know your strategy towards the beginning of a race, how it was going to unfold? Because I know this race probably felt a bit like deja vu. Did you know your strategy towards the start of a race, how it was going to unfold?
Yeah, I knew the fuel was not critical for us this time. In the other race with the longer length, we had to make sure we did 9 laps every pit stop, or we would need an extra pit stop. But this time we only need 8 laps each time, so there was no it was not something I was too worried about. I was a little more worried about staying close to Bradley, just in case he tries something smart. So I just wanted to be copy him and be close to him, because championship wise I just needed to finish close to him, so I was just copying him at the start. And then on the second stint we both went for 9 laps. We didn't need to, but I think both of us just wanted to do it. I didn't pit at the end of lap 8. He tried to follow me and we made it to the pits like with really the last drops of gas on the tank, but it was fun.
Alright, well Laura, we saw you have a fantastic season this year. We congratulate you on the championship. We look forward to seeing if you can repeat it again next season.
Yeah, I'm gonna check with the organizers if there's room for me on the HPD, try something different next season. I think the competition is really strong on the HPD, but I'm really thinking about trying that car next season.
Soup approves. Soup, I like this idea.
Alright, well that was our GT3 champion and winner today here at the Circuit de la Sastro, and that was Laura Costa.
And
I got
Go ahead,
Swirly.
Phil.
I got him here, so I'll go ahead and start up. And of course, I'm talking about Wojciech Swierdowicz. Oh, congratulations on a second place finish in the championship. So close for you, Swirly.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it was a slight disappointment towards the end.
Yeah.
But still, I guess it's okay. That's racing, and no hard feelings to anyone. Probably the first crash with Caradine was a bit on me. So yeah, like I said, there's no bad blood or anything. And I say, like, Steven definitely deserved the win overall as well. He had a very good second part of the season.
Yeah, just to follow up on what you said, you bested him. You were better than him the first 5 races and 6 out of the first 7 races. But boy, at the end, he started turning around. He won 4 in a row to get the championship. You win 4 in a row at the end. That's the way to do it. Let's talk about Le Mans, though. This one, you didn't seem to feel it here today.
Yeah, I didn't prepare very well, and I definitely had the wrong setup. I was driving on minimum downforce, and after qualifying, I knew I am 2 seconds off the pace per lap to Steven. I knew he's very fast and such, and all I could do is to troll them a little bit in the first stint. When we are in the group, I was really way quicker down the straight than everybody else. But in the twisty corners, in the twisty beats, they were just running away. And once we got split into groups after the pits, I just couldn't keep up with anyone.
Yeah.
Simple as that.
Let's put this behind us. Let's look ahead. Man, we have sure here on GSRC and enjoyed covering you. Does your real-world schedule allow you to come back and race next season?
Yes, definitely. Yeah, I always kind of wanted to race in this league because I work nights here in Europe, so I'm kind of on American time zone operating here. And it's really hard to find a very good road league session, a road racing league on iRacing that would fit me. And this is one of those.
So after this now, you have a night's work coming up ahead of you?
Not today, no.
Not today, good. All right, good.
That's
all right.
the day off.
Well, man, it has been great, first of all, to watch you race, but even more fun to have you in here and talk to you. You're a good guy, so we look forward to seeing you down the line.
Oh, yeah, my pleasure. Always thank you for having me on. Cheers.
And Joe, he was patient enough to wait for us to learn to pronounce his name better, so he's got to come back for that now.
Absolutely.
Sweetly is good. Like, I like that.
I'm glad that you've embraced our nickname. Again, commiserations on the second place, though. The good news is we do have, after what I assume is celebrations with real champagne, our winner today and our winner of the championship, Stephen McGarvey, has come to join us to talk about how he managed to overturn that huge gap partway through the season with 4 wins, including one today. Stephen, were you nervous on whether or not you could manage that last gas to the finish to take first here and keep your crown?
Yeah, I was saving fuel the whole race and thought I could take it with just staying out on old tires.
So fuel was a concern as well in the GT1s as well, I take it?
Yeah, I was saving every lap I could.
We hadn't noticed that as much as what we saw with the prototypes, where we knew it was marginal. Now with you guys, the thing that really struck us is at the start of the race, the first maybe half, it looked like it was a 5-way fight for the lead. Did that make you a little bit anxious to see so many cars battling so hard early on?
Yeah, it was pretty crazy out there with the draft. I mean, you couldn't really pull away, so I just saved fuel and just ran behind somebody, did not make any mistakes.
Now, you've taken 2 of them. Here's the real question. Are you going to come back and try for a 3-peat with this GT1 championship, or alternately another car if they decide to switch out the Aston and the Vet?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I'll be back. I'm not sure what I'm going to drive next season. They probably go to the GTE cars, but I'll be back for sure.
Well, we look forward to having you back. And again, congratulations on what was an impressive run of wins, and even more impressive win out there today.
Yeah, thanks.
That was Stephen McGarvey, our winner here at Le Mans. And let me double check to see if we have... No, I guess not. I was going to see if we had time to get our AM champion Kevin Santana in, but looks like he has ducked out. So with that, I believe we're going to close up today. And of course, we want to thank a few people. Of course, thanks to the Autobahn Motorcar Group for sponsoring yet another season. Of course, they'll be back again for season 6 of the Autobahn Motorcar Group Sports Car Challenge. And big thanks to John Ulmer and as well. I understand Gerard and McInnes do a lot of work behind the scenes to put this thing to air. Thanks to the companies that provide the software and hardware for our broadcasts. They're listed here on your screen. Additional thanks to Eric Ekholm and Casey Lalonde to provide the music for our broadcast. Their contacts can be found listed there on the screen as well. Thanks to the team today, Bill, Sam, Amjad, and Dougie. It's been a great season. I've loved getting to share the mic with you guys. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com, or you can check out our social media on Twitter at GSR Channel or Facebook at /GlobalSimRacingChannel. Now, obviously, we don't have a schedule for next season yet, but as far as we can tell, we do anticipate that negotiations should work out. The GSRC should be back to cover. Again, we'll let you know as soon as we know when that season will start. However, we have all kinds of races up on the screen for all the other series that are continuing on. Definitely check those out. There's lots of great stuff here on the GSRC that you should go and see to give great action on the track. But until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.